Mate, you're an idiot. You don't go rogue against a Banshee build. Unless you got that. But then you're in trouble, mate. What idiots. Haha! No chance, my friend. Stupid idea. What's up, agents? Epic Slayers here. Welcome back to a brand new Division video. Today we're going to look at the Rogue Hunter, the Rogue Destroyer build. Now this is 6 pieces of classified Banshee. This build absolutely melts, and with the right conditions you are going to be doing so much damage that no one will be able to compete to you. The DPS on this build is crazy. It will outshine any build in the game in respect of damage under the right conditions. So hopefully you enjoy this one. If you do, drop a like, subscribe if you're new, and let's do this. Alright, agents, welcome to my classified Banshee build that you're going to use to take down rogues effectively. Now this build is only effective really if you die by a rogue and you are chasing rogue, and I'll go over exactly why with the Banshee here. So I'll quickly go over the set bonuses for all you new people out there, as well as the 5 and 6 piece, and then we'll go over the build itself. So for 2 piece, looted DC funds 20%, not that important. For the 3 piece, you're getting 10% damage to targets out of cover. And this isn't a cover-based shooter, unfortunately, like we were promised. So actually, this is very important. And from also, it's actually multiplicative as well. It's not additive, so it is a lot more damage than you would expect. Now, Banshee is, while rogue, all ammo is completely refilled every 30 seconds. Damage taken from non-rogue players is reduced by 10 seconds. While not rogue, damage to rogue players is increased by 10%. This bonus is increased to 20% for 10 minutes after being killed by a rogue. And that's what I meant, guys. If you're killed by a rogue, then your damage is increased by 20% to that rogue for 10 minutes. So that's really, really strong. 5-piece set bonus is 20% looted DZ funds and 5% damage to targets out of cover. So you get 20% damage to rogues, and then you get 15% damage to targets out of cover. And then onto the 6-piece, while rogue, the time to clear manhunt status is decreased by 5%. That's not important. What is important is, while not rogue, damage to manhunt status players is increased by 2% for each manhunt level the player has. Rewards for killing manhunt players are improved. So if they're manhunt level 5, then you're doing an extra 10%. So really, you're doing 20% plus that 10% plus another 15. You're looking at 45% extra damage. And I can tell you what, guys, if you are coming against rogue players and they know you've got this build and you've spec'd it properly, they're going to be wanting to kill you first, because you'll be the one that can actually down them really quickly with this build. You're going to crit really hard, especially if you're running something like the House, which is the best SMG in the game, which I would use with this build. It doesn't really matter, to be fair. If you use any SMG, you're going to kill them quickly, so they will want to take you down first. I would say that the only bad thing about this actual gear set, it's not really got any sustain in respect to damage, so I would try and stack a bit of stamina on there. You don't really need to spec too much into firearms, because you're ultimately going to be getting that damage from the actual gear set as opposed to, you know, like firearms and whatnot. And in fact, I'd actually probably increase the stamina of this build just a little bit more, up towards the 6,000, maybe over that 500,000 toughness, just to make sure you've got enough on there. So the Banshee's shadow armor, that's the chest piece here. Now, the reason I've rolled exotic damage resilience on here is to sort of negate the bleed, because my understanding is that exotic damage resilience does negate the bleed from predators. That's the only reason why I'm running this on here. Otherwise, I'd run something like enemy armor damage just to give me that little extra burst, maybe some skill haste. I don't know, but I've rolled exotic damage resilience here, health, ammo capacity, and then we've rolled into stamina. Mods-wise, we've gone to 2 stamina mods here with health on them. Moving on to the mask, we've got Banshee Shadow Mask with crit hit chance and burn resistance. Minor attributes are up to you, but I always run crit hit chance when I get as much damage as I possibly can, as quickly as I can. And the mod here is a firearms mod with health. Moving on to the knee pads, we've got health, disorient, burn, disrupt resistance. The minor attributes aren't that big of a deal, to be honest, but you do want some sort of resistance, to be completely honest there. And then I've rolled it to firearms, and mods wise we've got firearms mod, and we've got first aid health here, because you're going to want some form of heal, although it really isn't that important. And the reason why skill haste isn't actually that important, especially with this build, it's just because your skills get burned through so quickly. It really it doesn't really matter, to be fair, especially in 1.8. So moving on to the backpack, we've got health, bleed resistance, and then of course we've got firearms. I mean, bleed resistance is good, but of course with Predator 6-piece, it doesn't matter how much bleed resistance you got, you're going to be getting melted unless you've got some way to immune yourself from it. Moving on to the gloves, you've got SMG damage, crit chance rolled into firearms. And then lastly, with the holster, crit hit chance. And then, of course, you've got all your stats there. Of course, this build is not optimized by any means. Not at all, and I'll just show you the mod on this one. We've got first aid self here, and with the backpack we've got firearms, first aid self here as well. Now the gun of choice, as I said, I'm using the house. If you don't have the house, then something like an AUG is really good anyway. Or, you know, maybe something like the MP5, but I think the AUG is actually probably the best SMG outside of the house for 1.8. I would say, so I'd probably run that, but if you can use the house with good talents and you'll melt. Secondary weapon is completely up to you, and of course with the house, you just want to be doing as much damage as possible. So if you're playing on console, you're going to want to go for crit hit damage. If you're playing on PC, I'm not sure. It depends how good you are in headshots. If you can hit headshots consistently, go for headshot damage. But if not, then go for crit hit damage, of course. And that's where you're going to be getting the most sort of damage from your player. Moving on to my abilities, I'm running Pulse with Conceal. I just always run Conceal. I could run something like Tactical Scanner here, but I've always run Conceal. I don't think it's worth the extra 2% in damage really, because you know people still use Conceal in the game. I think there's this thing going around where people don't really use Conceal that much anymore. They do, and I'd still recommend using Conceal as well. And then also lastly, Booster Shot. So the reason I run Booster Shot is not for the heal. There's no point me running Overdose to heal so minor. I might as well run Booster Shot, get that extra bit of damage, which you get regardless of how much skill power, you get that extra damage, and that's really what it's for, is to get that extra damage. And then lastly, guys, I'll just quickly go over my talents. So I've ran Adrenaline, and that's just for Predators. It really is. I've got On the Move, although actually I don't really use On the Move too much. You might want to run something like Precision, but I still use On the Move Strike Back, just in case, and then I've got Critical Save. So there you go, guys. As I said at the beginning of this build video, this build is really good at killing rogues, but you have to die first, effectively, to get the most out of it. Of course, you can still do a lot of damage without doing that, but really you want to die first, come back, and then if they are Manhunt status 5, this build will melt them in seconds. I don't care what Predator build you have, this build will output more damage than that Predator, because you'll be able to do a lot more damage quicker than that bleed ticks. So that's why this build is stronger, if you set it up properly and under the right circumstances. As an overall build, Predator's probably better, but this, for killing rogues, when they are Manhunt state of 5, and you've already been killed once, this build will melt them in seconds. I promise you, so try it out if you have the set. With that said, hopefully you enjoyed this one. If you did, drop a like. And until next time, Epic out.